Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So for OpTic Texas have played one of their last set to scrims before the season gets back underway with a couple of impressive results last night against some actual pro teams. Given the fact that many pro teams have seemingly struggled with challenges in recent times, these were some reasonably impressive results, especially on Hacienda. Dashy is seemingly a force to be reckoned with on this map. I don't know how many veto processes Hacienda is going to get through against OpTic if this is anything to go by. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. This, by the way, was a bonkers play here from Huke in, as we saw yesterday, that $8,000 chow that they played. Here's the third kill, and then Huke gets the fourth one as well. This was alongside Huke's team winning this chow. So I said yesterday I wasn't true. One, turns out that it was Huke's roster, so this was the teams anyway. Huke, Drazah, Paul X, and 04. They won the $8,000 pot in the end, helped in large part by Huke making plays like this. So, yeah, this is pretty stunning stuff. Now, before we move on, let's talk about the camos going into, well, when they're being released in, what is it, tomorrow, right, into the game, something like that anyway. And, well, let's just go through them. I will leave the judgment up to you whether you think they're any good or not. This is what Boston have. This is Cloud9. I mean, it's just a blue and, to be honest, this isn't even bad. Like, you compare this to the other camos, this actually might be one of the nicest, which is not a great sign, to be honest, about comparing this camo to the rest of what the CDL has had to offer. I don't mind some of these camos. I think lots of them are pretty terrible. And I don't really understand why they can't have the logo on them. Now, look, let's be honest. This is much better, I think, the fact that the teams can make their own thing than it was back in Cold War or whatever, when they literally had the same skin with the different team logo on it in a different colour. That was horrific. But still, I would like to see, I don't know, the teams put their logo on it somewhere, so it actually feels like the camo of the team, maybe? I'm not sure. What do you guys think? This is the Falcons. I mean, again, I guess it's kind of nice. The colour scheme is okay, but many of these camos look like something that unlock, especially even this one, for, you know, a few hundred headshots rather than anything that is, you know, maybe you're going to pay for. Lots of the gun is just black here for Atlanta FaZe. Can I tell that that's for FaZe? I guess it's got the EZ on it, but that's kind of about it. You've then got the Gorillas Mate one, which is pretty fire. Like, first thoughts, I wasn't sure I like the colours, but actually, you know what? I think it works. This might be a pretty good one. It's kind of gold, it's got the purple on it. Fair play. It's funny with Gorillas, because terrible organisation, but actually their branding has always been kind of fire. Like, I've always kind of liked it, the purples they use, and now they're with Gentle Mates. For the final year, they're going to be Gorillas, and next year there's no going to be Gorillas in the league anymore. This is what they've come up with. This is the Heretics one. Look, this is, again, nothing maybe spectacular, but I do like it, because at least it's got the Heretics logo on there. That's at least my opinion. This is what OpTic have come up with. It's kind of nice. It says OpTic on it, so I guess there's that. And then you got Ravens, which I guess is okay, but again, many of these, certainly the Minnesota Rockers one, are like, these don't look like camos you'd pay for. Like, these look like camos you're going to unlock. And didn't Surge have, like, this exact same thing last year, or am I tripping? I don't know. True to your thoughts in the comments below. This is the Thieves one, which is pretty underwhelming to me. There's not much red on it. I guess they want to differentiate from FaZe and stuff, so I guess I get that. And Toronto always do a pretty good job. Their colour scheme's nice as well. Anyway, there you go. Those are, reportedly anyway, the 12 camos going into the new game. Are they any good? That, I guess, is for you to decide. Let's talk about some scrims. We've seen FaZe and others play over the last few days. FaZe played SGP, Syndicate, the Challengers team, and it was 4-3 to FaZe. It's been causing quite a lot of discussion over the last few days. The Challenger teams doing well against the pro teams and all this stuff going on. FaZe won 4-3 against SGP, but OpTic, they played a couple of scrims yesterday. Kremp was watch partying it. They had a couple of streams live, and they don't stream scrims often, but when they do, of course, it's always very interesting to have a look at how they are faring, especially because it was against pro teams, not maybe the FaZes or the Thieves of the world. I say FaZe as if they're actually like the best team, whereas right now, like, it's kind of clear that they're not, at least not necessarily. So let's start here against the Minnesota Rocker, a Rocker team that started the year okay. I think they started 2-0, they're now 2-2 in the league. And I'm not convinced by this Rocker team, but still, Pro League caliber team, they've done pretty well in general so far. OpTic played them on pretty much all the maps, and the maps went as follows. The Skyline started off like this, 250-178 in favour of OpTic. I think some key storylines to keep an eye on as we go through these scrim results, really, especially from the OpTic side, and CleanX was having a bit of a hard time. I mean, you can see quite a lot of variability in the numbers on the Rocker side, at least in this scrim. CleanX 21 in 33, Nero 39 in 29, whereas the OpTic guys, very consistent in terms of output. So, you know, that's usually what you tend to see. Not all the time, obviously. No team is going to have this every single map, but in general, the better teams will do this more often than the worst teams will, I suppose. So, you know, it's a scrim. At the end of the day, we've got to take it with a pinch of salt, but CleanX's performance, and even from the OpTic side, Kenny's performance has been a major point of discussion, hasn't it, right? Because we know that Kenny has not been the best online so far. Certainly in Search and Destroy, that's been the case. How will he fare going into the rest of the season? How will he fare on LAN? I've got no concerns about him there. But if Kenny's looking very good, or at least passable maybe, in online scrims, it's a pretty good sign for where Kenny feels about the team and where his individual game is, because Kenny is a massively important factor for this OpTic team. He certainly will be this season with Huke in the roster as well. Kenny needs to be at his best, I would say, if OpTic are going to win championships again. And if he's not, I think he's such a crucial element to their overall structure. To be fair, even a Kenny not playing his best can still be very impactful. But it is a storyline that people are keeping their eyes on. Huke as well, of course, because people want to know how's he going to fare compared to Pred's numbers. This was the Hacienda they played, and the numbers on this one were 250 to 185. So OpTic won the Hacienda as well. CleanX had a bit of a rough map here again. Dashy this time at 33 and 22. So, you know, Dashy and Kenny, both of the ARs, frying for OpTic this map. Dashy, of course, excellent in this map way back in BO4, and yes, the map has changed slightly now because they've added that other element, the overview towards the other bomb site, but it's still Hacienda in general, and Dashy's just very good at it, and it should be no surprise at all, but Dashy seems to fry every single time he's on this map. 4,200 damage. I mean, Kenny had a good map here with 29 kills, but Dashy was pumping some insane damage and had 14 assists, so his eliminations at the end of the game looked pretty nice. He went on his screen 47 in 22. Not too bad. This was the protocol. OpTic won this one again. Dashy 36 in 25. Great map here from Shotzzy, 32 in 21. Another bit of a rough one from CleanX and Estriel. So, you know, impressive from OpTic. All of these maps so far in the series, comfortable victories, exactly what they'd be looking for. I think the concern for OpTic again is that their red card, that is probably the map where they are weakest right now. Obviously always interesting because a map was removed from the pool recently and it was Rewind. To be honest, red card was never really in that discussion. The teams generally seem to like it. I'm not sure OpTic massively dislike it, but they're just not that good at it based on the numbers that we have seen recently anyway. Estriel has a great map, as does Nero, so the SMG's really taken over here. Huke has an okay one. Kenny and Dashy though with a bit of a rough time here on the red card, so it's not their best map, OpTic. I wouldn't say it's going to be like a high-rise search and destroy for them last year, where they played a fair bit and they just weren't very good at it, with the exception of a couple of occasions. I think they will still play the red card hardpoint, and obviously, you know, you're often going to get 2 hardpoints in a series, because series will usually go to 4 maps. They may not always go to 5, so, you know, in OpTic's case, if high-rise search was map 5, they might not usually get there, but if red card hardpoint is in the series, they're probably going to play it, more likely than not, which is pretty important to be good. But obviously, you could also have a perma veto. Not always the best idea, but it's something I suppose to think about. So they lost the red card. Then they played a couple of controls. This was the Vault, and it was Rocker that won this one. Kenny had a bit of a bad map here, 20 in 34. And then they played, if I just zoom out on this one, the Hacienda. I think they did try to play the map 2, the protocol, and then it crashed. So I'm not sure who was winning that one or what the circumstances were. But I think the general feeling is that OpTic won this scrim set 4-2, maybe 5-2, depending on your interpretation of the maps that they went down. And look, they won this map, OpTic. Dashy goes 38 in 25, so mega map here from him on the Hacienda control. Again, it's on the Hacienda. Shotzzy, Dashy, Huke, all with mega maps. Kenny, to be fair, if you look at his scoreboard, it will say he went 33 in 30 because he had 14 assists. But he did technically go 19 in 30 with not much damage. So, yeah, Kenny's performance performance in the Search and Destroy in the matches so far, and to be fair in the Control Scrims, has not been looking stellar, but has still been good enough for OpTic to get a comfortable Scrim victory on this occasion. They also then went on to play the Los Angeles Grillers, LAG, mate, whatever you want to call them. Now, it's tough to say how good that team is, but they started the year 0-4, so we know that for sure. But also, they played some pretty good COD in their final couple of series. They were very competitive with many of the teams they played, and there's some upside there, but there's also some downside as far as I'm concerned. So OpTic played them, they played Grillers in a 5-map scrim, they just played all the hard points on this occasion, and again, pretty similar results to what we saw against the Minnesota Rocker. Game 1 Vault was exactly what OpTic would have wanted, 250, 188, and it was actually Huke this map with a really takeover performance, 43 and 32. As I say, that would have been 55 eliminations on his screen. Not the best for Dashy, but that's okay if Huke's going to have a takeover map here. Of course, this is against the team of Kiz, Lynz, Priestahh, and Skyz. This was a banger, I imagine. Really close map here, 250, 247 in the end on the Skyline. Still quite some controversy on this map, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it should stay or go, whatever. Lynz here has 43 frags, most in the lobby. Kismet has 40, but it's not enough to get the win. So some pretty impressive team play, I'd say, from OpTic, because this is interesting to see from the team that was New York Subliners last year. You guys remember that it was a big talking point last year, even between OpTic and New York. I think there were some discussions that the scrims against New York last year were kind of pointless from OpTic's side. I think JP even made the point, was because the way that New York played last year, they would get lots of kills and then not win, or not win by a lot, or whatever the case was. So now it's kind of interesting to see that in this map here, they outslayed by not massively. I mean, what is this? 2 plus 4, that's 6 plus another 4. Okay, 10. Outslayed by 10 kills. OpTic were therefore outslayed by 10 kills, and yet they won by 3. So maybe a similar story here developing for what used to be New York Subliners, and is now, of course, basically the same team, but with Lynz instead of HyDra on the Gentle Mates roster. There was then, of course, the Hacienda. So we're going to talk about it again, because once again, Dashy dropping something similar. I mean, this time he was 23 and 15, so only like a 1.5 KD, but they slammed them inside the 100-point club very comfortably. I've said this a few times now, that every time I see a Hacienda scrim, it's very rare a banger. It's usually someone wins quite comfortably. And in this case, OpTic certainly were the team. Everyone positive, wasn't even close. Dashy had 2 minutes in the hill as well. So, a few very interesting storylines to take away from this series. We also then saw the red card, and it was, again, OpTic taking the L on this one. And Kenny actually had a real bad one this time, 22 and 40. So, yeah, just a few storylines there to keep your eyes on, certainly with the OpTic Texas team. Looking excellent on Hacienda. Dashy's looking real good. Shotzzy and Huke as a duo looking real good. Kenny's individual performance, still a bit of a question mark, and the red card hardpoint, still a bit of a question mark as well. But yeah, there will be other teams watching these scrims last night and thinking, you know what, that's potentially pretty telling for the matches that we're going to have in the upcoming weeks. It's always interesting when they stream the practice, because obviously you might say, oh, well, they're giving away secrets to other teams, they can see things, which is maybe true to some degree, but at this point in the season, that doesn't really matter so much. I guess more of it is the information to show what OpTic are good at, what they're not so good at. Other teams wouldn't know that, but of course, other teams also play them in scrims, so they will also have a very good idea of where they sit in terms of coming up with a good veto decision, for example, going into a series. But yeah, Dashy 32 in 25, and that was the final map, basically, of the day. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. They played several maps last night against the Minnesota Rocker, and of course against the Los Angeles Grillers, and the first series they were 4-2 on the maps they counted, second series they were 4-1, so 8-3 map count, pretty impressive against teams of these caliber, but pretty much I think what you'd expect from OpTic at this point in the season, going into Minor 1, not that far away. I'm really fascinated to see if the rematch with Boston happens, how that goes, because they played and they lost, of course, with Pred in the first weekends, and that was pretty controversial. Boston, though, are looking good, but we really don't know how good based on some of the other results that are happening in scrims, but we don't get to see behind the scenes. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.